Hello, I'm HomoArrosor. Today, I am taking you straight into a fundamental, massive shift in the global financial infrastructure. And let me be clear right out of the gate, we are not dealing in hypotheticals, guesses, or future possibilities today. We are operating squarely in July 2026, and I am going to walk you through the hard, verifiable facts that connect the UK government's newly mandated digital markets blueprint directly to the true corporate architects quietly operating behind Pi Network. The mainstream media is completely distracted, focusing entirely on the surface-level technology in token prices. But today, I am going to take you deep into the regulatory plumbing. The architects have already laid the absolute foundation for this, and honestly, no one saw it coming. So let's get right into the exact architecture, the strict legal boundaries, and the definitive corporate entity that is actually pulling the strings.
We are going to methodically dissect this complex reality step by step. We'll start with the UK's tokenization blueprint, then move into the massive bottleneck of KYC silos. From there, we examine the undeniable collision with GDPR, uncover SocialChain's quiet B2B pivot, deconstruct their corporate liability model, and finally, look at the concrete facts confirming this massive transition.
Okay, let's dive right in. We need to start at the macro level with Section 1, the UK government's financial blueprint for wholesale digital markets. This is an established reality as of July 13, 2026. Looking at this blueprint at maximum scale, I want to meticulously explain what is actually happening. The UK Treasury has launched an official massive execution roadmap to move legacy finance into tokenized digital ecosystems. Just recently, the government appointed Chris Willard, the former interim chief executive of the Financial Conduct Authority, as the wholesale digital markets champion. That is a serious regulatory flex. Now, to prove this technology works at a massive institutional scale, the UK selected end-to-end repo transactions as their core pilot. Think of a repo transaction like a digital pawn shop for the entire financial system. You hand over government bonds as collateral in exchange for short-term cash. But here is the kicker. True tokenization means everything. The bonds, the cash, the clearing process, and the custody must synchronize simultaneously across distributed ledger technologies. If you just tokenize a government bond, it is entirely insufficient. The whole ecosystem has to move together. Institutional giants like DTC, BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Ripple contributed directly to these exact blueprint discussions, proving beyond a doubt that global digital asset infrastructure is focused squarely on this exact execution.
So the UK has the master plan for tokenization, but what happens when real-time digital assets slam headfirst into legacy compliance? This brings us to the precise bottleneck identified by the UK's Action Group 7, the immense friction of human identity and financial crime compliance.
Expanding this out to maximum scale, we hit the absolute core of the problem. Digital assets, like those tokenized government bonds we just talked about, can transfer in mere seconds on a blockchain. But the human identity compliance attached to those assets, it is trapped in the past. While the asset is ready to move instantly, the manual legal reviews, the physical document submissions, and the constant re-verifications create a massive compliance lag of days or even weeks. The UK's Action Group 7, the specific task force assigned to tackle financial crime compliance, realized a stark, undeniable truth. Without a shared identity layer, the blockchain yields zero net gain in institutional transaction speed. Absolutely none. The bottleneck is not the technology. The technology works flawlessly. The bottleneck is the immobility of human regulatory data.
I really want to emphasize the absurdity of this speed mismatch at maximum scale. You can build the absolute fastest blockchain in the world. You can have block times under a second, but if regulatory immobility forces you to wait 2 straight weeks for an anti-money laundering and sanctions check to clear, your transaction speed is 2 weeks. It is not 2 seconds. The DTCC and the UK government are aggressively trying to move tokenized rights across global borders in real time, but the identity of the entity receiving those rights is entirely immobile. The friction stopping global tokenization right now is 100% regulatory.
So why does this friction even exist? Expanding this mechanic fully, it comes down to the KYC silo. Let's say you clear identity verification at Bank A. Bank B does not trust it. They make you start the entire grueling process all over again, because every single institution bears its own distinct legal liability. Regulations vary wildly by jurisdiction, and there's no clear unified guidance for cross-platform compliance. So the official Action Group 7 mandated solution is clearly defined here: the creation of a reusable identity layer. Imagine verifying yourself just once, and that trusted, fully verified state is just reused securely everywhere instantly across different institutions without duplicating your raw data. But building that shared identity layer immediately hits a massive legal wall.
You cannot just share personal data freely across corporate institutions. This brings us directly to the strict constraints of UK and EU GDPR data privacy laws.
Let's spend some time dissecting this collision course at maximum scale. On one side, AG7 absolutely demands shared identity data to break the silos. On the other side, UK and EU GDPR privacy laws strictly forbid the mass copying of raw passport and facial biometric data. The naive solution, just putting everyone's passport into one giant, shared, interoperable database, is highly illegal. Unlimited copying of sensitive biometrics directly violates fundamental GDPR protections like purpose limitation and data minimization. Therefore, any solution that actually aims to satisfy the UK government's mandate must perfectly thread this exact legal needle. It must break the silo without triggering mass raw data exposure. UK GDPR is the absolute legal boundary condition here. There is no getting around it.
So what does this legal boundary actually demand? Expanding this balance scale fully, it means that instead of sending a physical copy of your passport to every single bank, the identity layer simply communicates verified attributes. It asks, is this a real human? Are they over 18? Are they free of global sanctions? It is exactly like a bouncer checking your ID at a club. That bouncer doesn't keep your physical license. They don't make a photocopy of it for their filing cabinet. They simply verify you are allowed in and hand it back. This minimal sharing mechanism of a verified state, conducted strictly under lawful consent, perfectly adheres to UK GDPR requirements. It solves the exact problem.
This perfectly introduces the PI-Verify architecture. When we look at this step by step at maximum scale, you see it is built exactly for this regulatory reality. Raw biometrics, like your 3D face scans and your government passports, are taken and permanently locked within a cryptographic black box in the SocialChain PI-Verify engine. Zero raw biometric sharing occurs. The system literally never shares the raw file. Instead, it only outputs Boolean logic, simple yes or no verified statuses, to external institutions. Is this a unique verified human? Yes. Has this specific person passed our rigorous fraud checks? Yes. This hybrid engine provides absolute cryptographic proof to the institution, with zero data exposure for the user.
Let's elaborate on this shielding mechanism, blowing it up to maximum scale. Notice the absolute barrier right in the middle. SocialChain acts as the impenetrable shield, completely blocking the raw biometric data from ever moving to the external B2B client. Through real-time APIs, SocialChain supplies exactly what the business needs to clear compliance: the verified state, confirmation of past verification, and immediate fraud alerts. And crucially, this is all executed under the absolute condition of the user's lawful consent, backed by a formal legal contract between the external enterprise client and SocialChain. This elegant structure completely cuts off indiscriminate data sharing while delivering exactly the speed and compliance that financial institutions demand.
Now, we are going to pivot from the technical architecture directly into the definitive corporate actions. I'm going to reveal the exact legally binding steps taken by SocialChain on June 28, 2026, transitioning this technology straight into the global business-to-business compliance sector.
Let's contrast the public view with the hidden factual reality, looking at this exact date at maximum scale, June 28, 2026. On the surface, the public was entirely mesmerized by the Pi 2-day technology release of PI-Verify. It was a big celebration. But beneath that public spectacle, the true architects were quietly installing the heavy legal plumbing. On that exact same day, SocialChain completely overhauled its corporate privacy policy to officially define external clients, meaning outside, third-party corporate entities. They legally structured the mechanism to reuse existing KYC data for B2B onboarding. We are not just looking at a fun tech demo here. We are looking at a corporation actively finalizing the ironclad legal structure necessary to sell B2B verification services to the world.
Expanding on this transition at maximum scale, this marks a factual, undeniable shift from an internal app feature to a massive global B2B infrastructure. Over 18 million verified Pioneer KYC data points can now, explicitly with user consent, be reused for onboarding to external corporate services. The compliance scope expanded definitively to support comprehensive AML and sanction screening for outside entities. SocialChain has legally opened a massive, highly regulated channel to connect over 18 million verified humans to external enterprise services instantly.
And they built this channel to withstand the harshest regulatory scrutiny on the planet. Examining this compliance routing map at maximum scale, they specifically adapted their structure to fully embed themselves within the strictest UK and EU GDPR frameworks.
They officially appointed the Prider Group as their local privacy representative and instituted the complex cross-border transfer safeguards that are absolutely essential for signing institutional banking contracts. SocialChain didn't just write a generic privacy policy, they deliberately fulfilled the rigorous, foundational legal prerequisites required to operate as a global compliance vendor.
With this massive B2B compliance framework legally in place, we now must investigate the true corporate governance. We're going to look at the entity stack, the flow of venture capital, and find out exactly who holds the ultimate legal liability.
I want to take ample time to deconstruct this three-tiered entity stack at maximum scale, because this is where the profound realization truly hits. At the top, the decentralized Pi network protocol has no ultimate owner. Therefore, it legally cannot sign a B2B enterprise contract. A decentralized network cannot be sued and it cannot be held liable. But at the very foundation of this entire ecosystem sits SocialChain Inc., a privately held, highly centralized corporation established back in 2018. SocialChain is the sole operating and legally liable entity. They handle the corporate contracts, the exclusive management of Pi Verify, and the massive compliance oversight. The decentralized network runs the ledger, yes, but SocialChain runs the business.
Exploring this paradox in deep detail at maximum scale. Unlike Bitcoin, Pi's entire economic system strictly requires verified humans. Maintaining that human layer is not just writing some open source code and walking away. It requires permanent, centralized regulatory plumbing to continuously handle KYC updates, mitigate new fraud vectors, and process immediate GDPR data deletion requests. As the consensus layer decentralizes further and further, the absolute necessity for a permanent, centralized, legally accountable body to manage the verified identity layer only grows stronger. The two depend on each other entirely.
And when we analyze the flow of venture capital at maximum scale, the true power center becomes undeniable. When top-tier institutional money from firms like Ulu Ventures and Designer Fund enters this ecosystem, they are not buying the Pi token. They invested in the equity and the voting rights of the unlisted corporation, SocialChain Inc. They are betting their capital on the equity of a global B2B KYC platform, and they want voting control over the corporation that exclusively operates a database of 18 million verified humans. This reveals the true governance structure. The entity that controls SocialChain is the definitive power center of the entire ecosystem.
Finally, let's bring all of this together. I am going to strictly separate the concrete, established facts from their logical future consequences, giving you the exact confirmation signals you need to watch for next.
Let's methodically review the facts at maximum scale. The UK government's Action Group 7 is officially demanding reusable digital verification solutions to unblock tokenized digital markets. That is a fact. In parallel, Pi Verify has completely shifted its legal policies to serve external corporate clients, and SocialChain has built the exact GDPR-compliant legal structure to deliver it as the sole operating body. That is also a fact. The logical, undeniable consequence of these facts? SocialChain is imminently positioning itself not as a simple crypto app, but as a global identity-as-a-service mega corporation. This corporate demand for reusable KYC will create a brand new enterprise-grade utility that underpins the entire network. So how do we know when this structural reality goes fully live? Walking through these three zones at maximum scale, here are the confirmation signals. First, watch for actual B2B adoption metrics, major fintechs or financial institutions officially integrating Pi Verify APIs. Second, watch for corporate governance transparency, official VC portfolio updates or equity disclosures regarding SocialChain's valuation. And third, look for the verifiable independence of the consensus layer through clear, stringent criteria for supernode selection. When these three signals flash, the massive commercialization of this infrastructure is officially underway.
To conclude this explainer, let's synthesize this undeniable architecture at maximum scale. The UK government and global institutions are desperately trying to move tokenized rights instantly, but they are entirely bottlenecked because human identity remains trapped in legacy KYC silos. Pi Network was never just an app to mine coins. Through 18 million shared verifications, they constructed a massive, verified human layer built for the AI era. Through Pi Verify, they opened this infrastructure directly to the external B2B market. And through SocialChain Inc., they quietly established the most rigorous corporate liability framework possible under UK GDPR. While the entire world debated token prices, the true architects meticulously installed the exact regulatory plumbing the UK government is just now realizing it needs. The foundation is fully built beneath the surface. The only question left is, when do they turn on the water?